Hey everyone, I'm here with the amazing Dr. Amy Johnson, who I think you're doing more for helping people genuinely, authentically, sustainably change maybe than anyone else, really, Amy, because you're right at the heart of really honestly looking at habits, aren't you, and change and behavior and where it all comes from. And so this is why I've invited Amy to be right at the start of our new series, in which we look at a quote that is really like impactful. It's so rich. There's so much in it, and we take 20 minutes or so to really hear from the person who gave us that quote, what it really means, all the real depth to it, which we all sense is there, but like what's real, what do each of these words mean. So I'll read out our quote that we're going to look at, and this is from Amy's book, The Little Book of Big Change, the no willpower approach to breaking any habit. And it is, your habit is not you, and it's not personal. It is simply your brain doing what it does. So hi Amy, hello to
Hi,
your
Claire.
quote. Thank you for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much. Thank you so much for having me. And as I was saying, I love that I wrote that, or that showed up through me apparently 6 or 7 years ago. And
Hmm.
even as you read it now, it's like, oh, there's a lot in there to
Yeah.
dissect. And so I love that you're doing this.
Yeah, so would you take us through, like maybe even word by word, what's it telling us?
Yeah. So your habit is not you. I mean, nothing is you. Your habit is not personal. Nothing is personal. So of course, in that particular context, we're looking at habits, which, man, do they feel like us, and do they feel personal? And it's so easy to see, and we've all had so much of this experience of some habit showing up, and it's like instantly, I mean, thought wants to come in and say, what's wrong with you? I can't believe you're doing this. More thought comes in and says, you know better. Yet thought is creating the habit, and then thought is coming in and criticizing what's happening. And I think that's the kind of thing that just leads us all to just feel like we're going crazy. That's probably one of the biggest things I hear from people when I talk with them around habits is, yes, they're destructive and unhealthy, and they affect our lives in all kinds of ways, but it's really the shame. And it's that sense of, I know this isn't me. And they might not say it that way,
Mm.
but there's a knowing that this isn't me. I know better. This is not what I want to be doing. Yet it's that feeling of just being so hijacked and taken over by something beyond our control that really, it's at the root of the suffering around this. So your habit's not you, your habit's not personal. I mean, again, we could say that about anything in life, but it's like stuff is arising, habitual patterns, if we want to call them that, actions, behaviors, thoughts, feelings. I mean, everything seems to just simply arise. And then what also arises is a conversation that says, this is about me. This is happening to me. This is because of me.
Mm.
I need to stop this. And just kind of see it like that. It's this one giant, is how I see it anyway, like this giant flow of experience. And in that flow is what appears to be happening, and then a big conversation about what appears to be happening.
Yeah. And when you say it's not personal, how can that be? Like how can it not be personal when it looks like it is my body, my mind, my actions? What does
Right.
it mean, not personal?
The story in our heads is that everything that's felt is mine.
Mm.
You know, sometimes even, again, even when we sort of know, it's still felt with this overlay, I think, of a story that says, this is me, and this is my experience, and this is about me in some way. And then that can go very deep again into the real stories about what it all means and where it came from. I mean, this can get to be a lot of me in this stuff that arises. But no matter what, even if there's not a ton of thick story, even anything that arises, if there's a sense of me, like I'm me and you're you, and everyone's their own separate islands out there, then what arises right here in this experience is going to feel like it's me and like it's mine, and that just feels like it's such fertile ground for suffering because there's this ownership. And so there's a lot of levels at which to talk about it. But I think, again, just being a sense of a separate me makes everything feel like it's me or mine to some degree. And then when you add in more of the stories that make it look so personal, it's even more so. But how is it not personal? I guess, that's just how it seems to go. Is that, I mean, don't hang on my words, anyone, but this is just my attempt to point at this. It's like life just is like what appears to be happening is what appears to be happening, and it's all one expression of life, period. There's one energy, and it expresses in all kinds of ways and forms as bodies and identities and actions and thoughts and all of that, and chairs and coffee cups, but it's all the same thing expressing in all of these ways. And again, there's part of that expression is this me that kind of owns certain things or appears to own certain things, but maybe that's just part of the expression. So for all of us, life is going to feel personal to some degree. Everything that is experienced will feel personal, but when we really back up and see it, even personal is just oneness expressing. Even me and mine is just oneness expressing. And that's not anything that our separate minds are ever going to wrap themselves around. But I think this idea of just sort of zooming out and seeing this bigger oneness as we get less focused in on the specifics and we kind of back up, sometimes we can catch a glimpse of like, oh yeah, okay, I'm just part of this story, but really the story is just all the whole.
Beautiful, beautiful. And when you say it's just your brain doing what it does, I think it would be easy maybe for some people then to think, well, I'm just stuck now with this. And yet there's thousands of people who've been through your little school of big change, and amazing videos and testimonies that profound change has happened. So what are you seeing creates is the cause then of that change? What happens?
I think when it looks like it's personal and it's me and mine, and there's a me that's going to change it or fix it, a lot of energy and attention goes toward what's arising, and a lot of volition and like willpower, and I don't like this, and sometimes people think that's what's helpful, and who knows, maybe that leads to something, but in the big picture, but it's like, no, I'm fed up and enough, and it just adds so much sort of resistance and tension to what's happening. And I think with such innocence, that's what keeps people often spinning in this cycle, because all we can see from those blinders on from this little place is like, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. It's happening to me, and I need to do something to make it stop. But already now we're in this tiny little pool. It's like there's an infinite, oceans of life, and we're in this little pool saying, nope, this is wrong. This shouldn't have happened. And of course, we just don't see that much from there. So that leads to that feeling of people have of just trying everything they try. And this was me for years, which is why I do this. Like everything they try not only doesn't work, but makes them feel worse about themselves, and like there must be something really wrong. So that's where the real suffering is. And I think what happens, what's kind of behind the change, is so hard to talk about what really is, but there's something in seeing, we don't have to step in and make that change. And perhaps as much as there's suffering and struggle in the in the physical world and all of that, perhaps there's nothing wrong. So perhaps our brain is simply a machine that just does what it does with complete intelligence and perfection behind it. And, it's just trying to keep us alive, and it just learns patterns, and it learns things that it thinks are helping. And that's what our habits are. And our habits do help at some point. They bring some relief. And then this little machine says, ooh, that brought relief. And so it just does that more. It's so simple in that way. I mean, again, I'm no brain expert either, but we don't have to be. It's like just a simple learning. And what's so helpful for people is seeing, oh, first of all, there's no problem here. It's just the brain working the way it's meant to. Maybe I've misunderstood it, but we can understand that and see, okay, there is no problem and I don't have to fight against it. And then there's a natural backing up from it. Like, okay, if this isn't a problem that I don't have to step in and fix, then it's just seen from a greater distance and with a different perspective. And even more so than the backing up, almost just a metaphor, like kind of continues. It's like, oh, okay, that's just my brain doing what it's conditioned to do. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. And it's not my problem to fix. And it's perfect as it is. And in that, I mean, there's this amazing place where our habits get to like not only just not have a grip on us anymore, but be this great vehicle for seeing, wow, I'm not my experience. This experience, life just happens in these apparent patterns and habits and conditioned things, but we aren't that. Like there's an ability to see all that and be in that and even be okay with it. And that's not what we're talking about, making ourselves okay with it, but in seeing that it is just how life's showing up and it's not so personal. It's like people are unhooked in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, unhooked. So beautiful. And over the course that you've been running and the little school and now with your new book out, just a thought, has there been an evolution in how you work with people, do you think? Is there anything that's changed for you in how you approach this with your students?
I think so. And not intentionally. It's not like I can't see a point where things changed or anything, but yes, for sure. In the 5 years, I think the pointing has changed. And so I think it used to be a little more, and it's weird because it's always been pointing to the same basic thing, which is this quote, which is, quite old now, but it's still very, very relevant. Like,
Yeah.
okay, all this stuff happening isn't about you. I think in the beginning that looked a little bit more like don't take it so personally. It really isn't about you. You're a good person. And I wouldn't have said it that way, but there was a little more of like, okay, there's a you, and don't worry, you're healthy and you have all this potential. And this is just something that's running that you're getting kind of caught up in. And now I think it looks a little bit more like it's all just part of life expressing,
Mm.
even you, even every story, everything, so the extent to which people would notice or hear that, I have no idea, but that's what occurs to me about what's sort of shifting.
So nice, Amy. And last question, how have you seen this in your own life? Have you noticed behaviors and habits changing for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing, I guess, feels like I just have, it's a weird thing because it's a bit of a paradox. I want to say I have less interest, and that makes it sound dismissive or cold, but I just have less on what shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly, that allows for more of just being in whatever's showing up. There's less resistance, I think is probably the easiest, simplest way to say it, to anything. So yes, there are still things that show up, ways that I can feel like something's personal or feel hurt by something, but it's like right there on the other side of it. Like the feeling is like, oh, that, oh yeah, there's me thinking there's a me that this is happening too. And it just sort of pops, the bubble pops much faster, which leads to a lot less pushing on life, a lot more of, yeah, just being with whatever's here, and even not liking it, and that doesn't matter much either.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool, Amy. And so I want to try and keep this to 20 minutes. I could literally talk to you all day. Um, is there what would you say that this would really be the like last words now to someone who is deeply stuck, really like in the deep depth of addiction, and their life is really on this train and they can't get off. What where should they begin? What would you say?
I would say the fact that you feel so deeply stuck and broken and like things are so wrong is exactly what you want to look at and lean into. You know, things are wrong. There's truth in that. Your suffering is showing you something. There is truth in that. I think we're so conditioned to like, oh no, suffering, let me get out of it. Don't rush to get out of it. Look to what it's trying to break open. And that's sticky and just a sound bite because our mind can make up stories about that, you know. But I think for each of us, we know that we are meant to thrive. We know that those feelings are there to show us, hey, there's something being believed that cannot be the whole truth. So
Mm.
just look at that and lean into that.
Oh, so great, Amy. Thank you, darling. Any last things that you would say to anyone relating to that quote or anything else?
No, I think it's so cool to see how much depth there is, and like you pointed out, in every little piece of that, you know, it
Yeah,
is showing up as it's showing up, and it just can't be personal. And yeah,
yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, it's always such a pleasure talking with you, darling. And thank you for that. And thank you for all your work. It's just astonishing. And you live it. Like we all see you living it. It's so inspiring.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you too. I appreciate everything you do, and I'm honored to be here in this new
Oh,
series.
oh, thanks, my love. See you soon.
Thank
Big
you.
love to you. Bye.